Hi everyone, this is River, and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys an experience that I had in Joshua Tree. And if any of you don't know, Bashar recently did a transmission in LA. It was the Midnight Under the Hunter's Moon transmission. And in that transmission, he said that on October 13th at midnight, going into October 14th, that in Joshua Tree, a portal and a vortex would open up, and it would be a good time for certain kinds of contact experiences to happen. And so me and a lot of Basharians, we went out and went to Joshua Tree, and we did the specific Bashar guided meditation that he did for the transmission. And it was a very, very powerful experience. And I'm going to take you back a little bit. Earlier in the day on October 13th, I rode with some friends out there. And while there, I discovered that there was going to be around like 80-something people in total, around that ballpark range of people coming. And I also discovered that there was going to be another additional group campsite reserved. And so I found out that another group of Basharians was out there, and they had reserved campsite number 13. And when I learned this, I was instantly, intuitively yes, I need to be part of group campsite number 13, because within this past couple months, as I'm getting closer and closer to my actual birthday on October 27th, the number 13 has come up in so many different synchronicities this year for me that have really, really played a big part, and have coincided with the synchronicity of magic, and the idea of magic, and the idea of Harry Potter, and the idea of being a magician, being a wizard, being a witch. Like, all these magical components and life as magic have been completely activated in my life, especially this year, because ever since I was a child, I told myself that when I would turn 27 on October 27th, which has been this past year that I've been 27, that something incredible would happen. And so all my life I've had this momentum and build-up of positive expectation for this year of being 27, this past year of being 27. And so yeah, the synchronicities of the idea of magic and the idea of the number 13, which represents the Council of the Crystal Skulls, and all these things interwoven. And so I just intuitively knew, okay, campsite 13, I need to be there. And so I, fluctuated a little bit, and while being there, me and my good friend Deanna and her children, we went over to campsite 13 to check it out. And while there, we are met by Nicole, who was one of the women there, and she was showing us around. She showed us this really beautiful part behind the campground that overlooks this giant open space of just pure nature. Don't know exactly how to articulate the beauty of it, but there were just the Joshua Tree boulders in specific places. It felt very sacred. And so she was showing us that, and we turn our attention and we start to turn back and go inward into the campground again. And up on a side of a hill watching us was a hawk. And I can't tell you how significant that is for me in my life, especially this year, the synchronicity of seeing red-tailed hawks, at perfect moments, You can't make this stuff up. Like, it is so synchronistic and so magical. The moments in which I have seen red-tailed hawks, like, and just hawks in general, in perfect moments that I just needed that thing and that animal spirit and that totem. And so I knew, and I could sense it was a female hawk, and I saw that it was, and just seeing her there, I just like completely opened my heart, like, within myself, and just relaxed into knowing and into being even deeper. And I knew exactly in that moment, like, okay, I need to be in this campground tonight. Like, something magical is going to happen. I just knew it. And she flew over in front of me and marked kind of a space in which I could set up my tent. And so I did exactly that. I set up my tent right there where she flew over. And it was at the base of this huge giant boulder. And there's a whole rock wall of Joshua Tree boulders, and just absolutely beautiful. Okay, and so we all hang out and we do drumming around the fire and just like activate this like super primal energy and just like connect and you know, just hang out. And we're all waiting for around the time of midnight. And so I go over to campsite number 2, which is one of the original campsites that some of my friends had booked. And so a group of us went over to campsite 2. And we decide to host, I'm going to move this a little bit. We decide to host the group meditation in the amphitheater in Joshua Tree. And so all of us just like head over there. And so I brought the laptop, and Kim, a friend of mine from the Bashar group, she's a volunteer, she brought a giant speaker, and so we played the meditation through the speaker in this giant open space, so you can, like, the acoustics were just amazing. And so during that time, a lot of people saw ships, and I had such deep interdimensional contact. Like, I'm talking like just the depth of contact internally, interdimensionally, like, was so profound and so opening. And the amount of clarity of mind and like open-heartedness and expansion in a lot of ways, and the melting of like imagination with reality. And that's where I feel a lot of us are waking up to, is the power of our imagination, the power of our consciousness, because our consciousness is imagination. And that's how all these things have come to be. And so I had a really deep experience. I knew that when I would go to sleep that night that I would have contact. And so after the meditation, after I like rock climbed a little bit on my own and just took in the breeze. The breeze was just like amazing. Just, you could feel it flow through you. And so this, like, again, that's where imagination is the key, because it literally is going through you, because you're not as solid as you think. And so there's all these different dynamics to who we are as multidimensional beings. And so that night afterwards, it's like 2:00 in the morning or something, I go back to the group site 13, and there were still multiple people around the fire, and so I joined them by the fire. And we were joking about like ghost stories, and so we were going around telling like scary ghost stories and stuff like that. And it came to be my turn, and instead of telling a ghost story, I told kind of like a scary story of a version of myself, like in this life, like some of the things and themes that I've experienced, and like that dark, like the dark energy and negative energy, and processing through it and stuff like that. So I told like my whole, like what I perceive to be my past experience in this incarnation. And so because the past is literally always changing, so I'm deepening into that understanding too. But I was sharing from that older perspective of my past, and in that story I shared about a interaction that I had with a negative entity telling me to do something that I didn't completely want to do, but yet was playing out like this victim consciousness. And so so that led me to empowerment now, and that's good. And so okay, so where I was going with this and why I'm sharing this is because after sharing that negative kind of storyline of my past, the guy to my right, he actually is around the same age as my father, and he actually looks very similar to my father. I even told him that. I'm like, you look like my dad. And so it's like this interesting synchronicity also, because my father and I have actually had, my dad and I have actually had ET contact before in our lives. And so when I was around 8 years old, but I'll go into that in another video. But yeah, and so he looked at me and he was like, "Oh, how spooky of you." And those were the exact words that Bashar had said to me previously at the Bashar event, actually the transmission Angels of Orion. And I got to speak to him and talk a little bit with Bashar. And so that was exactly the words that Bashar had said to me when I told him that my theme had been transforming darkness into light. And he said, "Oh, how spooky of you." And I knew when Bashar said, "Oh, how spooky of you," that he was talking to me on many different levels, multidimensionally, and I knew that it had a lot of significance. Like, everything that he says means a lot. And I knew that, and I know that. And so when this guy, Robert, said that, I instantly had a memory / opening in my consciousness to where I'm on the ship. I'm on Bashar's ship, and we're discussing whatever we're discussing, and there's a room full of Sasani beings and other beings. And I can see him, and he's in front of me, and I can see like and feel people behind me, and I know that we're on this ship. And so I'm simultaneously living two different experiences at once that are overlapping, of being by the campsite or campfire and on the campground, and then also simultaneously being aboard ship with Bashar, seeing him face to face, and we're discussing, I don't even know what we're discussing, but we're discussing something. And so it was just like this really, really deep, like, imagine for yourself, like, how deep that feels, like, in your body and in your consciousness, because your consciousness consists of everything in your reality, including your body. Like, you're not just your body walking around in this space, you're also the entire space, and including the body. Like, you're everything. And so such a deep, deep experience. And so I knew going to sleep, okay, it's going to be even more activating, like, what else is going to happen? And so I went to sleep, and I had a lot of downloads happening just prior to falling asleep. I listened to Bashar's guided meditation twice again before finally falling asleep. And while asleep, I was aware that I was dreaming. It wasn't fully lucid as it could have been right in the beginning, but I was aware I was dreaming, and I was letting myself explore that. And so I'm in this giant city, and it's kind of like an upward, on a hill almost, and it's packed with people, packed with buildings, and like walking through it is almost like walking through a maze. There's a lot of alleyways that you would take and things like that. And what I was doing was I was running through this like maze of a city and just like having a lot of fun. I'm just like booking it, and I'm just loving jogging and running, and I'm just like, yeah, adventure. And every now and then I would pass like a pocket of people, and maybe like 2 to 3 people in each pocket. And there'd be like 2 or 3 people talking about something deeply spiritual, about the universe, about reality, or about their life, or whatever, but all with a spiritual angle to it. And as I was approaching them by running, I could start to hear some of the conversations that they were having, and I would instantly get like an insight or a download as to what I could say to help them through their process or understanding or whatever. And so as I would pick up on their conversation, I would just wisdom bomb like, oh, this, da-da-da, like reality is just da-da-da-da-da, like just, and I would just keep going. I would see like their reaction. They're like, oh my God, yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's like the perfect puzzle piece that I needed to understand that concept. But I just kept running. The whole thing was just like, I would stop for a moment, and then I would just keep running. And so this was symbolic of, this is my passion. Like, this is what I love to do. This is who I am. Like, this is what I came here to do. Play the game, share my wisdom, share what I've learned, share what I've gained, no matter what dips and, you know what I mean, the cycles, like, all of it is well and good because I got the wisdom bombs to be sharing with the world. And so that was the symbolism of that. Okay, so then next comes a different dream, and I'm in Joshua Tree. It's nighttime, very much mirroring the same feeling, same vibe, same place in physical reality. And so in the dream, I'm in Joshua Tree. The full moon is out, just like it was. Giant boulders. And there's just one pathway that I'm on that's all dirt, and I can see like the background with the boulders and the Joshua trees and things like that. And each step that I take, I start to recognize that I'm dreaming. I start to really recognize that I'm dreaming, and then I start to ground into the dream through my feelings, like through my senses. Start to ground. I'm dreaming. I want to wake up. I'm dreaming. I want to wake up. And as I'm doing this, the feeling of being barefoot on the dirt and the sand, I can feel it as viscerally as I would right now if I were in Joshua Tree touching the ground. Like, just as tangible as that on my bare feet. So each moment I'm grounding in the senses. So I'm like waking myself up on a lot of levels. And as I'm doing this, I'm starting to actually wake up my physical body, and I'm simultaneously lucid dreaming in this experience. And in this experience, I see in front of me down the dirt pathway a giant orca, a killer whale, just sitting there facing me, completely breathing oxygen like it's nothing, like it's made to be, like, of course they breathe oxygen, but just the sight of it just peacefully sitting there on the dirt was just out of this world. And that's a pun because that's true. There's a lot of star connections in this. Okay, so this giant orca and killer whale is just sitting there on the dirt, and it's like a beacon. It's emanating this electromagnetic field that is just like pulling me in, like very, very powerful. And in the dream, in this lucid dream, I became instantly fearful, became very afraid. I instantly got down on all hands and knees, and my face is like on the dirt, and I am worshiping this orca. And there was fear that I felt, there was reverence and awe that I felt, there was just so much magnetism and so much depth of feeling that I experienced. And just like everything that I felt, I just was giving it my energy, and my reverence and awe I was just in deep worship. And in that moment, I surrendered so deeply, and I just trusted my path, and I just gave up, not gave up, but just, I surrendered completely to everything, just everything. And in that moment, it felt like, if you could imagine a sea of wind behind me, pushing me towards the orca. And I started to tumble, but it was almost like a dance and a free style thing. It was not like a regular somersault after somersault, which is straight. It was crooked, but it was always moving forward, and it was just like a literal dance. And I'm moving, snaking, like almost in a way, like always tumbling like forward towards the orca. And my gosh, so deep, so deep, so incredibly deep. And I got insights into like Orion and Atlantis and my connections to those places and people and consciousness in periods of time, and Sirius, and a lot, just, and I felt like the orca was a portal to template level reality and beyond, and this activation of new templates in my consciousness and in my being and in my body, like all these aspects of self, just so much. I actually woke up completely at that point and was looking around the tent, and interdimensionally I could perceive, I'm talking like hundreds, maybe even thousands of interdimensional beings gazing at me, welcoming me, letting me know that I'm supported, that I'm seen, that I'm recognized, that I'm felt, that I'm connected to all of them in source. I'm talking hundreds of beings. At first I was greeted by a giant group of ancestors. And I'm not just talking about my lineage, but like I'm talking about, but that's included, but I'm talking about like Earth lineage. I'm talking about like Earth ancestors, like of every culture, like Aboriginals, Native Americans, Mexicans, like just Africans, like everybody, just everybody's included. And I saw like all these different ancestors, and just this recognition of like tribal roots, and like we all have roots. Every single person does. And I choose to activate that knowing, and I choose to embody that, and I choose to be that representative of, we're all one consciousness. We're all one beingness. So really, really profound. And the second wave of group of interdimensional beings that made contact with me were a lot of serious and feline beings. Like, felines everywhere. Like, amazing. They're all peering down at me in my tent. And they're all greeting me, and they're all welcoming me, and they're all giving me messages, and nature spirits that came to me as like aspects of different plants all in one being, and they would talk to me, and they just the feelings, the telepathy was just so deep, so incredible. And I really wanted to share all of that with you guys, because as we continue to grow, these kinds of experiences expand and expand and expand and expand, like, and get bigger and bigger and deeper, and you know, these are the kinds of things that lead us to that physical contact we're all striving for. And not striving for as in something's missing, but just we're all looking forward to, is a better way of saying that. And so, yeah, don't forget about the interdimensional contact. Don't forget about that, because that's the first step, in my opinion, to more contact, physical contact. You need to have contact within to have contact without, you know. So yeah, and the nature spirits are the best way, I feel, to ground and center and connect and make contact with. First, like Bashar says and Willa says, like, they are our familiars. They're the beings that help us keep our roots as we expand and spread our wings. Like, they're the ones that keep us grounded to this plane, to this planet. And so that's how we can grow even deeper and further and go farther, and just, there's so much. And so I love each and every one of you, brothers and sisters and brothers. And yeah, if you like videos like these, please like and subscribe. Your support means so much to me and propels me further, inspires me further to keep doing what I'm doing, storytelling and sharing my experiences. And if you would like to receive a reading or healing session with me, or any sort of coaching, I offer those kinds of services on my website, and the link is down below. And yeah, namaste, and yeah, Shivai.